I read 6 books in the month of May. Let's talk about it. Starting with my winner, Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. Snaps. I did a whole separate video about this book, so I won't do too much on it, but it follows a divorced couple and their journey to loving themselves and potentially loving one another. I love this book because it was so realistic. The fact that we start a romance novel with a divorced couple is so real because 50% of marriages end in divorce. This was my first book by Kennedy Ryan, and she is probably one of the most talked about authors on TikTok, the book community. But because I was like, I don't like romance books, I don't really want to read them, I kind of stayed away. But I see why she has a cult following. I am a cult member. I'm a new member. I've just been inducted because this book was so good. It read beautifully. It read like a dream. I made a funny TikTok a few days ago about how you can't read Kennedy Ryan before bed because you're just going to keep saying one more chapter, one more chapter, one more chapter, and then it's going to be like 2 a.m. This book flips between the perspectives of the two main characters, Yasmin and Josiah, and that really keeps you on your toes because I want to see what Josiah's thinking. I want to see what Yasmin's thinking. We talk about family, we talk about community, we talk about grief, we talk about friendship. This book had it all packaged in a really nice way. So just a side note, I don't know if people say this, but I think people say this a lot in romance books. In this kind of fiction, you can't learn something new. There was like 30 new words I learned in this book. Kennedy Ryan is a wordsmith. Her pen is crazy, and I would say this is a good book. I'd recommend this book to someone who maybe wants to like dip their toe in the romance but doesn't want to get like full smut. This had some spicy scenes, but it wasn't like so unrealistic, so crazy, so graphic. I think this was a good introduction into the romance realm. Next is Guilt and Ginataan by Mia P. Manansala. I picked this up at like a damaged book sale at Greenlight Bookstore, and I read the back and I was like, okay, why not? I thought the cover was cute. You know, over here we judge books by the cover. So this is a mystery book. Someone has been unalived and there's a lot of suspects. And the way this book is set up, okay, so someone is unalived in a corn maze, and then there's the unalived person, and then there's someone else who's holding the murder weapon. So everyone's like, she did it. But then everybody's like, nah, she couldn't have done it. So this is the journey to find out who did the unaliving. This was a good nosy book. This author, Mia P. Manansala, this is my first ever book by her. She does a really good job of painting a picture. I feel like I was inducted into the community. I knew every last person. I knew what they liked. I knew what they didn't like. There was a lot of good AAPI representation. And this book was just a nice read, even though it was a mystery. It wasn't scary, it wasn't frightening, it wasn't like I didn't stay up all night like worried someone was gonna break in. Honestly, I thought it was pretty lighthearted. It was funny. I'm always trying to figure out who did it, and unfortunately I was wrong. And I thought this book did a really good job of balancing between being serious, you know, because someone was unalived, but also kind of being lighthearted. I thought it was a good balance, and one of my friends is reading this book and she really likes it. So I would recommend this book to someone who wants to get into the mystery but doesn't want to go into like James Patterson, Stephen King. I think this is a good introductory book. It's lighthearted. It's under 300 pages. Is it even 300 pages? It's under 300 pages. It wraps up nicely. Also, I thought this author did a great job. There's other books in the series, and the way they kind of weaved in, I'm like, wait, I think I want to read like the other books. So I think this is book 2 or book 3. The way the previous books were weaved in, I'm like, hold on, let me see what them other books were talking about. So that is just great marketing. Very smart of an author to weave in their previous books because now I want to buy it. But I would recommend this book, and I did enjoy it. Next is Several People Are Typing by Calvin Kay. This, I think, by far is one of the most bizarre books I've ever read. I picked this up at The Word Is Change. It was outside for like $1, so I said, why not? Okay, so this book is written in a really interesting way. It's written in Slack messages, so it reads really quickly. I think I finished this in 2 days, and it follows a man who he's trying to upload a PDF into Slack, but his consciousness gets uploaded. So he's in Slack, but his physical human body just looks like it's sleeping. And then his coworkers are messaging him, and he can still talk, but he can't actually move his body and he can't go into the office. So that's like the backdrop. But overall, I thought this book was just a really funny take on corporate America and Slack messages, and it was so funny. So the way the book is broken down, there's different Slack message groups. So there's like the guys only, there's the girls only, there's certain people working on one project, and then there's like people being messy. There's one that's like I love dogs. There's one that's I love cats. This book was so funny and it was kind of bizarre. We really get into like the I think therefore I am type of situation. What is that? Philosophy, and we really get into like the granular what is a being. This book takes a really weird twist towards the end. The only reason I wouldn't recommend this book is because it's kind of bizarre, but if you like kind of weird books, I think this would be a great read for you. And when I look back, this book was funny. It was full of dry humor. If you've worked in corporate or working now, you will pick up on it. I think it's more so a general take on society today and how we encourage people to basically mold themselves into their job instead of having work life separation. They're like, no, 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 no. You're an employee. You are nobody else, have no life, focus on your work. So I thought this book was really good, really funny. And I would recommend it, but I would caveat and say, guys, this is going to be a really, really, really weird one. But I did like it. I have two books from the same series. This is Children of Blood and Bone. This is book one and book two. I picked both of these up at The Word Is Changed. I loved these books. This follows a young girl who has magic powers, and because she has magic powers, she's kind of oppressed, and everyone who has magic powers also oppressed. I thought it was intriguing. I thought it was interesting. I'm not super, super big on fantasy. I'm like a Harry Potter fantasy. I'm not like deep into fantasy, you know what I'm saying? Like I can do a little magic here and there, but I don't want to have like warlocks and you know all these craziness. But I thought this was a great intro into fantasy. It switches through perspectives between the main character, the hero, and then the villain, and then their siblings. And I thought everything tied up really well. I will say the second book, the way it ended, it threw a curveball. Like you think you know what's going to happen in this book, and then something comes in and just completely blows it up. I will say this second book broke my heart because I loved a character in the first book, and then she did something in the second book that just completely upset me because I thought it was crazy. And I'll talk about this book in a whole separate video, and I've done a separate video on this book too. But these books actually touch upon some really real issues, and I did not know they're on the banned book list, which is kind of crazy to me because I don't think it does anything to be considered banned. But anywho, if you want to support a female Nigerian author, you like fantasy, you like adventure, you like mystery, action, a little bit of magic, I think this would be a great series for you. And finally, I read The Princess Trap by Talia Hibbert. Y'all, I did not like this book. Never sit outright and say this was a bad book because, you know, who am I? But I just think this book had all the elements of romance that I hate. So this book follows a woman. She meets this man, mystery man. After their first date, they get caught by paparazzi, and she learns that the man, that who's this mystery man, is the prince of some random European country. So he has to lie and say, "Oh my God, we're actually married," so that paparazzi doesn't sell their photos. So she has to go with him back to that European country to kind of convince the king, who's his older brother, to let them get married. It had all the elements that I hate. It had fake dating. It had instant connection. I'm talking after their first date. They went on one date, guys, one date. And after that first date, she is flying across the country to be with this man. They also had a fake engagement. So whenever he told paparazzi, we're engaged, they obviously weren't engaged. So they were like, okay, let's fake an engagement for a year. I hate fake dating. I think it's so unoriginal. And I think honestly, fake dating always ends up the same way. They end up falling in love. If someone could recommend a book where they fake date and don't fall in love, let me know. Let me know, let me know, let me know. You know what it is? This book, I didn't care for it. Someone commented on my TikTok and said, "Oh, I really liked this book." And that's perfectly fine. I asked her to explain, so we'll see when she gets back to me. But I read this book because I'm nosy and I wanted to know what happened. But my big issue with this book was that we introduced a really serious topic, domestic violence, but there was like 40 pages in the book left. And it was very bizarre that we even introduced it and then how we wrapped it up. If we're going to introduce something heavy, whether it be trauma, violence, you need to give it room to breathe. The book is 300 pages, give or take. At page 250, we shouldn't be introducing anything new. We should be wrapping up. The climax has passed. I feel like this book went climax, rising action, falling action, climax, rising action, falling action, climax, end of book. What? That's not how it works. It's supposed to be like a point. It should be rising action, climax, falling action, end of the book. So I just didn't care for it. Someone said the Chloe Brown Get a Life, the Brown Sisters, that series was good. So I will try that one out and get it from the library because I don't want to write off a Black female author, but I just did not care for this book. Bye.